Hello everyone, my name is Jack. I have a story to tell you. The story will seem mystical, but it really was. I didn't believe it at first until I got to the bottom of it. Anyway, I have a family. My dad, my mum, and my nasty older brother Glenn. We never got along because he was mean to me all the time. Glenn always called me an illegitimate child, like I was adopted, like my real parents had abandoned me. I didn't believe it, of course, but when it happens systematically, it's a mess. I was getting nervous whenever I saw him, and then one day, the volcano exploded. I came home from school that day a little tired. I had a sore throat and a headache. Glenn was already home. He was lying on the couch watching a stupid show. I asked him to turn the sound down, and here we go. Turn it down? Why don't you go to the other room? I'm hungry and I'm gonna eat and the TV's next to my head. Turn it down, I don't feel well. I don't care. You're so nasty. What did you say? Look at you, orphan boy. I'm not adopted, okay? Fuck you. What did you say? I went at him with a fork in my hand. I was just on automatic mode when he threw me to the floor. I squeezed his hand, which was squeezing my throat. He didn't want to let go, and I wasn't getting enough oxygen. I stabbed him in the shoulder with a fork, and he screamed in pain, and then Mum walked in. What's going on here? Mum, he stuck a fork in my arm. What? Are you out of your mind? You could have killed him. How could you do that? I tried to open my mouth to say something, but my throat was hurting, and the jerk had it all worked up. So I just stood there with my hands around my neck and didn't say anything. My mother was terrified, took out the first aid kit and started rinsing his wound, even though it wasn't deep. My brother just grinned at me. I gave him the middle finger and went to my room. After a couple of minutes, my father came in, slapped me on the head, and told me that was it. I was grounded. I was told off for my behavior, my actions. They took away my phone, they took away my pocket money, they took away my computer. In short, life became a living hell. I emotionally ran out of the house, went to see a friend, and complained about my family. I hate him. I want him gone. We can make it happen. How? Are you sure you're okay with that? Yes, I'll do anything as long as he's out of my life. Did I tell you my grandmother was a hereditary witch? No? What kind of witch? Come on, I'll tell you on the way. Eric took me to visit his grandmother, who was blind. But strangely enough, as soon as we entered her house, she immediately said hello to her grandson, calling him by his name. And then she asked what the name of his friend was. That was me. I was a little shocked, and the grandmother came up trumps. Be careful what you wish for, Jack. Your mother didn't tell you about something, but I sense strong energy. Are you one of its carriers? What? What are you talking about? Do you want your family to disappear? I do. You just have to do it hard and touch them and they'll disappear. What the hell? I'm sorry, ma'am, but I don't believe in fairy tales anymore. Try it and let me know how it feels. Yeah, let's go, Eric. I gotta get home. As soon as I stepped inside the house, I saw the stares of my parents and Glenn. This retard came into the room with me and started teasing me about being a bum with no internet and no money. I walked over and grabbed his shoulder. A bright flash of light blinded me. I couldn't see. I squeezed my eyes shut, and when I opened them, Glenn was gone. I looked all over the room for him, and then I came out of the house, screaming in the yard. But he was gone. I was in shock. I didn't know what to tell my parents. Jack, where's Glenn? I don't know. I haven't seen him. He went into the room to get you. He didn't make it. I don't know where he is. Leave me alone. My heart was racing. I quietly ran out of the house and ran to Eric's grandmother. I told her what had happened, and she just nodded her head. She told me to control my anger, otherwise everyone I was angry with would disappear. Where did they go? Disappeared? No one knows. I came home and it was like, I was glad. That's what I wanted, for my brother to disappear. Now my parents are mine and mine alone. Yahoo! I was jumping around. Dad and Mum looked for Glenn, but somehow they forgot about him the very next day. We lived as if he hadn't been born. A dream come true. Hooray! I asked my father for money for a movie with my friends a couple of days later, but he said he didn't have enough money, like he hadn't got his salary yet. Well, of course, but you've always had money for Glenn. Who's Glenn? Just a neighbor. I don't remember him. Never mind, I could be confused. Dad, just give me the money. I really need it. I told you, I can't. That evening, I borrowed money from a friend and still went to the movies, and happened to see my father in a bar with his colleagues. Oh, that's right, there's no money for me, but you have money for your hangout. I asked angrily and burst into the bar and touched my father with my hand. There was another flash of light. Dad disappeared. His colleagues just sat there. And then I came home angry. Mum hadn't made me dinner. I touched her, and then it became a habit. My whole family disappeared. Half my teachers, my classmates, even some animals. Oddly enough, when Glenn disappeared, I thought that was it. Like all my misery was over. Like I had eliminated the source of my perpetual woes and lingering depression. But it wasn't. It wasn't Glenn. Now I was coming home to an empty house, with no money to support it. I had social services workers come over to my house now, and then, because I was registered as a child without custody, I had new problems. Within a week, more than 20 people had already disappeared. My street was like an abandoned neighborhood. I was angry about every single thing, destroying every police officer and anyone else who stuck their noses into my business. Once I even hurt a girl that I really liked. Her name was Natasha. I got up the courage, or stupidly, and asked her out. With you? No. Why not? Because I don't like you, Jack. I'm sorry. You don't like me? How? You're too rude. Me? I'm rude? Your ex-boyfriend is a jerk and you're calling me rude. I'm not going to talk about my ex-boyfriend. You're just stupid. What did you say? Take it back. I don't think so, you sheep. She wanted to slap me, but I took her hand away and she disappeared. Oh shit, no, 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 I yelled. I really didn't want her to disappear. I was so angry. I ran into our empty house, sat down in the corner and cried. Then I looked up and saw our family portrait. I realized how much I missed it, how much I missed my dad and my mum, and yes, even Glenn. And then I ran to that grandmother. She immediately asked me if I was happy. I interrupted her, asking her how to fix things. Aha! What, living alone isn't so much fun, is it? That's not the point. I realized I made a mistake. It's good that you realized. Yeah, but it didn't make it any easier. What do I do? How do I get everyone back? There's only one way. If you gave that world all those people and you want them back, you have to give something back. What? Anything. Yourself. What? You gave, you give back. There's no other way. But there's no other way. I left there sad. I came home again, looked at the photo, went to the mirror and got angry, shouting at myself that it was all my fault, that I was such an idiot for taking the lives of dozens of people for nothing. And then I touched myself. A bright flash of light occurred. I squeezed my eyes shut. There was buzzing in my ears. And then I suddenly heard my mother's voice. Jack? Jack? Honey? Open your eyes, Jack. Huh? Mum? Mum? Is that you? Oh, son. Finally, yes, honey, it's me. How are you? I don't know what's going on. It's okay. Just get better. Dad, are you there? Where else would we be, you idiot? We're home. Glenn, go to your room. You almost killed him. You're grounded, okay? Not again. What happened? You and Glenn had a fight like you always do, and he choked you. You passed out and we barely got you out of there. What do you mean? You didn't disappear, did you? What do you mean? No, I guess I'm just not myself yet. Come on, I'll walk you to bed. Mum put me to bed and I couldn't figure out what was true. My head was full of thoughts, but now I realized what my family meant to me. And if that was true, I'm glad I don't have that power anymore.
Hi everyone, my name is Dickie, and I want to share with you the story of how my family disowned me. I agree that this is hard to believe, and any normal person will first think that this is a monstrous act, that you can't do this, and that only monsters are capable of it. But you know what? All. What is done is all for the best. I saw this for myself, because after this incident, I became a really happy teenager. I was born in a family where there were usually no guests, where the house was always a mess, and usually there was nothing to eat except semi-finished products or fast food. At first, let me tell you about every member of my family, This is my father Pays, who is older than middle-aged, but still has a strong personality, such an energetic man with a huge mustache. My dad always liked to dress brightly, like a red jacket or a fun hat. My father didn't know where he worked. It was like this all his life. Maybe I don't know where he works, or no one knows, but he was clearly doing something illegal. I wasn't interested in the details, so I just kept out of his business. My mother, Susanna, loved herself, her nails, and her stupid dog, Linda, too much to have time for her own children. I don't remember my mother ever cooking food from the stove. And in general, we only needed the kitchen in the house to eat, but not to cook. If my mother didn't eat, she was surfing the internet or flipping through magazines with a dog in her arms. She didn't work because my father provided for us well enough. I also have a brother, Palmer. He was as dumb as our dog. Palmer looked like the Pope, was the same full and narrow-minded as both parents. I know you can't say that, but it's true. None of my ancestors had even finished high school, and Palmer was almost on the dropout list. It is not clear at all who I went to. I was not like any of these three, either in appearance or character. Thank God, in brain. I was different. Palmer often joked about how I was stupidly thrown and that I was not native. But I was not particularly upset, but on the contrary. As you already understood, I didn't find a common language with my family, so I didn't really talk. Usually, I'd come home from school, lock myself in my room, do my homework, prepare my sandwiches. While I was doing my homework, I would eat a meal, after, or rest, or go for a walk. I had a couple of friends. They were cool guys. One of them I was best friends with. His name is Ryan. This is my best friend, and we lived not far from each other, on the next street. Ryan always helped me with my lessons or whatever. Every time my parents went on a party, he and his mother would leave me at their house so I could spend the night there in peace. I just loved those moments. Ryan's home environment was very different. He didn't have a father, but his cool mom was so kind. When I came, his mother would cook a delicious dinner, meat with vegetables, casserole, spaghetti, or something else homemade. I loved this kind of food, and I was tired of sandwiches for a long time. Ryan's mother was surprised when I told her about my parents, and felt sorry for me. I knew she was right when she said it shouldn't be like this. It would be nice to stay at Ryan's house. By the way, he asked me to stay more than once, and each time I wanted to, but I couldn't. I knew how my crazy ancestors would react. They would make a big deal of it and yell at the whole street that I had been stolen. And then what should have happened? Palmer loved trying on her clothes and putting on makeup without knowing it. I knew it because I saw it. He promised to kill me if I told, so I didn't. Once again, while parents were out, Palmer ran to the parents' bedroom, and this time he's a little over the top. I told you he's a chubby guy, and he's gained even more recently. Anyway, he tore up my mom's Chanel dress, which was super expensive. At that moment, my mother came home, and this idiot ran out to her, shouting that I had torn her dress. My mother believed her beloved son and gave me a beating. I got so that it did not seem enough. After the punishment, I was so angry that I ran into Palmer's room, pushed him off the chair, and started hitting him in the face. My mother ran to our screams, picked me up, pushed me out the door, and said that I was not a child, but an animal. My father came in the evening and gave me a punishment for it. Palmer was an innocent child. I was so tired of the injustice that I started to cry. My parents, feeling sorry for the older one, pointed a finger at the door. The father shouted that I was no longer his son. I ran out of the house and ran wherever I could see. I've never felt this bad before. No, I'm not upset that I got kicked out. I'm upset that everything is so unfair to me. It took strength and patience. I ran, not knowing where, in the end. My feet led me to a familiar house. A house with which I associate only good things. A house where I am warm and cozy, where I am always welcome. "Hi, Dickie. Come in, of course," said Ryan and his mother to me. They gave me a delicious dinner, during which I described the situation. Ryan's mother was horrified, and then made a bed for me in Ryan's room. I lived there for 4 days. On the 4th day, my parents came to my school. Suddenly, my mother and father began to apologize. They asked me to forgive them, offered to buy toys, books, and I did not understand what was happening. I came home in the evening and didn't recognize the house. It was clean, for the first time in my life. My mother did the cleaning herself, cooked dinner, and everyone was at the common table, eating with appliances and treating me. I was alarmed by the behavior, but I ate and went to my room. At night, I went to the kitchen for a drink of water and heard the family talking. Do you realize that we can stay outside, right? Why did your mother choose Dickie and leave him the house as her inheritance? He can kick us out, you know, my mother shouted at my father, and Dad yelled back at her that it was all her fault for giving birth to someone as defective as me. And then it all became clear to me. My grandmother left the house to me, in which we lived, so it is rightfully mine. But I didn't want to live with them. I wanted to live alone now, because they were away from me. I took out a recorder and recorded everything my parents said about me, including that they wished me dead. The next day, the police and guardianship authorities heard the recording, and Ryan and his mother were next to me. As a result, my parents were deprived of the rights, even jailed for a while for threatening me, and Palmer and I were supposed to be sent to boarding school, but I didn't want to go there. At this point, Ryan's mother offered to help me and I agreed. She adopted me. After we finished everything, we moved into my big house, and the three of us lived there. Now I had a new family, much better and kinder, just like I wanted. What would you do if you were me? Write your opinion in the comments, put likes, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.